What is up, guys? Here's some footage of me hitting a seated Kata Gatame from a competition a couple summers ago. It's a great strangle, and I really want to teach you guys how to do it today. So you can see that this is different from a guillotine. It's a head and arm triangle from bottom. It's an awesome strangle, and it's one I think everyone should learn. Let's get into it. All right, guys, we're going to get into something that we haven't covered a ton on the channel yet, but we'll talk about front headlocks, and specifically the seated Kata Gatame. This is a favorite of mine. I've been using it for a long time, and I feel like it's a really undervalued position. It's become a little bit more popular in maybe the last year or two with a couple people high level that are using it, like Nikki Ryan, but it was in some of the old instructionals, and I used it a long time ago, and I've been using it for a long time. So I feel like I've got a lot of tips that I can show you guys that'll help you get more finishes with it, and also how to take the back off of it as well. So let's talk about what it is first. It's not a guillotine. So I'm not looking to just get connections of my arms with Jake's neck. I'm looking to get more of a darce or an anaconda, where I have one connection of my arm to Jake's neck, and then one connection of Jake's own arm to his neck. So what this looks like is, if we were in a front headlock position, we're down on the floor. A lot of times we want to look at front headlock as closed elbows or open elbows. So if Jake has open elbows like this, that's usually because he's keeping his elbows on the mat so he can raise his hands up and fight my hands. So he's fighting my hands. It's going to be really difficult for me to bring my arm through and up and get guillotines, right? But what it does open up is outside grips, where I start getting gable grips on the outside, and I can go into things like darces and anacondas, or seated Kata Gatames, where we start moving the elbow to the inside and bringing our weight over. You can do these Olympic rolls like we talked about. We can roll the guy through and then go into anacondas and things like that. So when we enter into the front headlock, our first goal is to look and see where his elbow position is. If his elbows are really far back to his knees, like this, now it's going to be hard for me to bring my arms through and thread them into those positions where I can start getting darces and anacondas or seated Kata Gatames. But his hands are too far back so that it's much easier for me to get into guillotines. So when we get here, we're looking at the law of the elbows, basically. If the elbows are open and wide, it's going to be easier for me to go across the side and start locking my hands on the outside of his body. If his elbows are more towards his knees, it's easier for me to beat the hand fight and come into guillotines. So we're usually playing those off of each other. Most of the times when you get into a front headlock, they're going to be fighting your hands, because the guillotine is the most common threat. So everybody starts going to the hands first. So this is why this is a great option for you to learn, because you're probably going to use it a ton. So once we get here, he's got his elbows wide because he's fighting my hands. I can strip this hand off if it's holding onto my wrist too hard. I can strip it off, and then I move to this outside position. I lock my hands in a gable grip, and I don't keep them high on his shoulder. I need to move his elbow towards the center line, so I go low to his elbow. When I go low to his elbow, I'm gonna pull it, so I'm pulling my elbow and I'm picking it up off the ground. And now, instead of putting my head through the hole and trying to roll like we would for an anaconda, I'm just moving this so that I can use my outside foot on the floor and shoot my knee as far as possible between Jake's legs. So I'm lifting this up, I'm pushing off this foot, and I'm shooting my knee deep. Like this, as far as I can go. And now what I'm looking to do is take my right elbow that's over his neck, and I'm trying to take my hands and cinch them really far and deep into this position. So I'm going even deeper on the outside of his elbow than I originally was. And I have my hands locked still. And now I'm falling backwards and I'm putting my leg over this. If I don't put my leg over this, he can jump cross body. So just I jump across the legs. And now I've lost my strangle. So I want to put my leg over top of his body, so he can't do that. And now we're not finishing like a guillotine where we just pull our legs to our chest and try to crunch his head to his chest. We're actually going to do an oblique crunch to my left. So I'm pulling my legs to my body, but I'm also hanging my body in this direction to finish him. So I'm hanging and pulling to my left. Pulling him in and pulling to my left. So that's the way that we finish. So again, I'll come up this way. We'll do it from this angle. We'll do it from a couple angles, guys. So come up a little further up. Right here, yeah. So we get here, I get to the outside because I see that his elbows are open instead of closed. So I move his elbow to the inside, so right to his center line. I pull it to the center line. I step my foot up so I can shoot my leg really deep. I shoot my leg as deep as possible. And now what I'm gonna do is cinch my arm as deep as possible. So I pull my arm as deep as it can go. If I don't get a really flush connection with my arm and pull it through, a lot of times you're gonna get into this position and you're gonna try to finish, and it's not gonna work. So we get our arm pulled as deep as possible, and then we fall back and throw this over. Now, when we're getting ready to finish, we pull our knees to our chest
and we do an oblique crunch out to the side. So we're hanging our weight off of his neck like that. Now, let's show it from another angle. We're here, outside position with our hands, pull the elbow to the center line, shoot my knee in tight, fall down, put my leg over top, pull my knees to my chest. I have my elbow pulled through really tight and I'm hanging. One more time, do it from this angle. Pulling the hand to the center line, elbow to the center line. I have my outside leg up so I can really shoot my knee deep. I jump off it, shoot my knee deep. I throw my leg over, elbow is pulled through tightly, and now I'm pulling my knees to my chest as I hang to my left to finish him. So now you might be asking yourself, what is the way out of this position? Because of the fact that we threw our leg over, he can't go cross body, and because it's not a guillotine, things like circling the head to the inside don't work. And this is another reason this position is so valuable, is because, again, like I try to stress on this channel, unorthodoxy is a weapon in and of itself. If people aren't put in positions very often, they don't have very good responses off the bat. So a lot of times, even if you don't finish it, they spend a lot of energy trying to get out, and it can exhaust your opponent, and it can give you a lot of other good secondary positions. So right now, we're going to talk about one of the secondary positions based off of their defense. So the way that somebody would defend this is as their arm is across their body and Jake is over here, he's pulling on my head, I'm gonna try to dip my shoulder all the way through. That's the way I'm gonna relieve pressure, is by bringing my shoulder all the way through and giving him my back. That's the only way really to get out of this, is to give somebody your back. So that's a really good reason to use this position as well. So if Jake does it to me, I'll show you guys how this works. He pulls my arm this side. I turn, I go deep. He holds onto this wrist, and he takes my back. So this is a really good secondary attack here. We'll show this from another angle. He's gonna look for my wrist, my top wrist that comes out. So he goes in, shoots it deep. That's it. You see how valuable this position is? Because the only real defense to it is to go back inside of the lock and actually turn and give them full back exposure. So this is a really good front headlock attack. And like I could show this in contrast to other styles of attack. Like if you guys like Peruvian neckties, it's a cool position and it's a cool way to finish a fight. But in my mind, it's not really the best attack out of here because it doesn't lead into anything secondary. A guillotine could lead into positional advantages with sumigeshis. A darce can lead back into an anaconda or a guillotine. An anaconda can lead back into a darce or a guillotine. There's always secondary attacks with those, and with this one, you get somebody's back. Conversely, there are attacks like Peruvian neckties where if Jake is on the back into front headlock, if I go and I grab my hands like this, you try to throw your leg over his head, and then you sit back and you try to finish it. If I don't finish this, I just fall down, and Jake is in great positions to pass me. So there are certain submissions that we should probably value over others. I'm not trying to downplay the Peruvian necktie necessarily. If you guys like that and it's working for you, go ahead, keep doing it. But I want to try to stress that we want to use moves that have great auxiliary options to them. And the seated Kata Gatame is incredibly valuable, not only for its unorthodoxy, its strangling pressure, and the ability to put people away, but also because of the secondary effects of somebody trying to defend it. So if you guys like this, let me know. As always, this is Big Jake and Eddie with Crash and Flow BJJ.